I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the New Bern Historic Preservation Commission. Brad, could you please do a roll call to ensure that we have a quorum?
Nancy Gray.
Here.
David Griffith.
Here.
Ruth Cox.
Here.
Jim Morrison.
Here.
James Herring.
Here.
Jerry Walker.
Here.
Vice Chair Year.
Here.
Chair Thompson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. And I believe that we do not have any minutes to review for tonight, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we can move on to tonight's hearings. We're about to begin quasi-judicial hearings for certificates of appropriateness for tonight. The Historic Preservation Commission is a public commission appointed by the City of New Bern's Board of Aldermen. It is responsible for preserving and safeguarding New Bern's locally designated historic districts, which consists of downtown and Riverside, based on U.S. Department of Interior standards, state statutes, city ordinances, and New Bern's historic guidelines. Two of the major tasks of the HPC include approving applications for a certificate of appropriateness and preventing demolition of historic structures due to neglect. The HPC holds a quasi-judicial hearing on an application for a certificate of appropriateness. The Commission hears sworn testimony and evidence provided by the applicant, by parties who received notice of the hearing, and by others who can justify that they have relevant evidence and are directly affected by the application. The Commission cannot consider comments based on personal likes or dislikes, hearsay, or personal opinion that cannot be directly related to specific historic guidelines. Likewise, commissioners shall refrain from stating personal opinion, personal likes or dislikes, or hearsay during a hearing. The Commission's decision on an application is based solely on testimony and evidence presented at a hearing that directly relates to the historic guidelines. So, for anyone who intends to speak or provide testimony related to a COA application tonight has to be sworn in. Brad, could you please swear in anyone who intends to speak tonight?
Sure. Stand and raise your hand. Anyone who intends to speak. Do you swear in testimony you give today will be truthful to the best of your knowledge? Thank you.
And other than the applicant, anyone who is going to possibly speak for or against an application, when you came in, did you sign up and did you pick up one of the handouts on the guidelines for testimony? Okay. We're providing that now so that folks have some guidance as far as the type of testimony that we can consider. So please pick one of those up. Okay, here is generally how we will conduct the COA hearings tonight. The HPC administrator will provide an overview of the application. Then the applicant or their representative will have a chance to present the application. Following that, proponents and opponents who receive notice of the hearing will have the opportunity to present evidence. Rebuttal is allowed by the applicant and by proponents and opponents who receive notice. So after the applicant and the proponents and opponents who received notice about the hearing have completed their testimony, others who can justify they have relevant information and when we will be directly affected may have the opportunity to present evidence. So after all public comments have been received, the HPC administrator will present staff findings and recommendations. The applicant or their representative will have an opportunity to make final comments on their application. Then commissioners will discuss the evidence and may ask for clarification from the applicant or from any presenters. Chairman will call for a motion to approve or deny the application with stated findings of fact. The motion will be discussed by the commission, and then the chair will call for a vote on the motion by the commission. A COA can be approved, it can be approved with conditions, or it can be denied. Any questions on how we'll generally conduct the hearings tonight before we get started? Okay, Brad, would you like to present the first application?
The first project is 223 Craven Street, to include demolition of parts of the existing structure, installation of new doors and windows in the primary AVC, installation of new wood storefront and windows in the secondary AVC, also to include removal of windows and construction of a new three-story addition and a carriage house-style garage in the tertiary AVC.
Mr. Chair, a request to be recused from this since I'm representing.
Okay, do we have a motion to recuse Commissioner Walker?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay.
Ready? Thank you. My name is Jerry Walker. I'm representing owners of 223 Craven Street, otherwise known as the Riggs House. And I know the commission has seen this before in some of the preliminary design reviews, twice I believe, but I know there may be some neighbors and other people that haven't. I'll try to be as clear as I can. Originally I planned on plugging in a computer, but found out that's against the rules. But I believe I do have enough information in my packet, and I brought in a supplementary packet that you should all have. And the supplementary packet contains 3 items. There's numerous pages, but 3 items. One is a site plan, one is a north elevation, and then the last portion of that packet is the materials that we're planning on using, the windows, metal, everything that's in the buildings. So certainly review that, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. As Mr. Sevior explained, this is the existing 3-story John Riggs house, otherwise known as Gusman Cleaners. It is defined as a contributing structure and is therefore has to be held to fairly rigorous standings. Now, towards the rear of the property, and I'd like to show you on here,
And Jerry, this is the extra packet that we received? Is
that's
that
correct.
Okay, before you go through this, Commissioner, since we received this tonight, before the meeting, is there anything in here that you think changes the nature of the application? Is everyone okay with receiving this as extra information on the application?
I think it's helpful.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I'll be as clear as I can, certainly ask questions. The home proper is this right here. Now this is a kind of an aerial view, and this would be the roof. This is Craven along this road, 223 Craven. We've got a gable that runs parallel to the roof. And then from memory, and I'll show you the next page, both of these walls, this one here that goes all the way back, this one here that goes all the way back, are their highest point, I think, are 16 foot 8, something like that. And they, no, I'm sorry, they're 18 foot, and they scale down to about 16 foot, so they are very tall. Now, this particular property I'm showing you is the projected. This is what we have under design. But right now, and you'll see it in your packet, from this portion back, we think is non-contributing. It was structures that were built in the late 70s. And there is a metal roof on there, a gable. In fact, I'll show it to you. This is the formal property here, 223. From here back is non-contributing. We have a gable roof here, and then from here back we have a shed roof. This little appendage off to the end is a block structure, and honestly I believe it holds, I'm going to call it a boiler, but it probably has something more to do with dry cleaning from previous use. Now the property line extends to the back of this. You can see there's a notch out here, but the property pretty much follows the footprint of the building, comes to the end here and extends, but it does include this notch. What we would like to do is, now that you're familiar with the property, what we would like to do is take this structure back to the 1830, 1840 circa that it is. This is a photograph of the building probably from the 20s. It's got a dirt road. You can see the curb. You can see these two windows here and this corner here. Everything's pretty much lined up. It does have an existing set of stairs which are no longer there. What it looks like today is right here. What's missing from today's version is there's two windows that are taken out here. This was taken out. This was a door and steps. That was taken out. A lot of brick infill. They put an awning up, and there's an aluminum storefront. That's how you'll recognize it today if you walk by. Over here, the windows that you saw in the previous one have been bricked in. The lintels are still in place. But otherwise, what you see, it's pretty close, and it's about ready, I would say, for a renovation. And we have some really good owners that are willing to invest in the future of this building and truly make it something. You have this in your packet. This is the existing elevation right here, showing what I just described. This is the south elevation. You can see that tall wall, 18 foot down to about 16 foot where that little notch out is. And this is the north elevation. Existing, and there's some heights in there to give you a little bit of scale. Now what we're thinking of doing on this, as you heard from Brad, is we want to add a 3-story addition. Now the addition, it's a small footprint. I'll show it to you in a minute, but I'd like to explain where we got our, where the energy came from, what we're adding on to this, and what we use as a precedent. And we looked at the Charles Ives' home, and this is in the infamous book, of course, if anybody wants to look it up, page 295. But what they've got here, right here, they call it a sleeping porch. And in the book, they say the second floor sunroom or sleeping porch. They kind of use these terms, both terms, equally. What we like about this is we like the different window styles, we like the glass, we like the vision, and we think it's appropriate for our addition. You will notice that the glass here, it does come in different size panes. You can see the smaller ones up here, lower ones here, as compared to the rest of the home. Now there's several instances of this in town. I'll show you a few here. This is the Disaway house. It's about circa 1880. And once again, it offers some of the same characteristics. I'll go through these fairly quick. This is an early Blades home. It's on East Front, and it has the same thing. Now, this sleeping porch was added in about 1913, but we think it still has credence and should help us here. Now, there's several others. Now, this is the Foy Munger home. This isn't exactly what we're looking at, but we do see a lot of these attributes and these characteristics of these kind of additions that are onto homes. I don't know if that was an addition. That may have been an original design, but you do see an awful lot of it around town. You can look at those in your packet if it's too small up there. And even this one, and this one's kind of built into the home, but once again, it's got the contrast of the smaller windows, window panes, I should say. So let's get back to our house here. And we'll start at the very front. What we're going to do is this is where we want to take this. Previously in that photograph, you noticed this window was gone, this window was gone, and this was an aluminum storefront. This whole thing had been turned into an aluminum window, and there were no steps there. What we propose to do is to take out all of the aluminum storefront, and there's a little bit of brick around it. We'll take that brick out as necessary, but we'll salvage that brick to be used later. We'd also like to put back in this brownstone. It was originally brownstone, that's my guess from looking at the lintels, they're brownstone, so I'm assuming it's the same. And we'd like to put it back in. Now, I have been corrected by Mr. Parsons. You all know him. He did make note that originally it did not have the pyramidal stairs. As you recall, they were kind of chopped at the end. Certainly that's a concession we can make. He preferred it, and as I looked at it, I'm not sure it was worth the argument. Across the street now, they do have the pyramidal. In fact, I'm in conversations with the owners at the Isaac Taylor House about possibly getting an old door of theirs that used to be on the front of their building. And if we can do that, I'd like to bring it in here and use it. But what you see here is we'll put in a new lintel here, new window, new lintel here, new window, and we'll match this space here. Mr. Parsons also thought that perhaps these weren't aligned. I looked at it today. Of course, you can't tell if these were because they're gone. But I believe this lintel here is in alignment with the one around the corner in that narrow right-of-way. So by doing that, now we're going to go around the corner. I'm going to show you something where I think we can salvage some existing brick. By the way, before I leave this, the use for this becomes the front door for the residence, which is on the second floor and the third floor. And around the corner, we'd like to maintain a commercial space, but you enter from around the corner. I'm going to zoom in on this. The rest is just the back half of that for most parts remains unchanged. Whoops, this is the wrong one. It was in my model on the computer. You'll remember at the last design review, we had this located right here, and we've decided to move this over, this edge, to right here. It's just moved over. It's almost identical to this. It just moves the storefront closer to the front of the building and aligns it in the previous window opening. There's lots of these in town. There's one, my gosh, there's one in Bear Plaza. There's one in the Fountain Plaza where I know a couple of guys work there, where they have carved out of there, pushed an entrance in, and this would be, of course, a wood glass entrance. And that's how we propose you enter the commercial space downstairs. And of course, these two windows, we got a little story about the windows. Let me just get to them. We're going to take these two windows from another place in the building and uninstall them in the back and reinstall them here. As you'll recall from the drawing here, towards the back, we demoed out that appendage that stuck here in all of the roof, and right about right here was where that cutout was. What we'd like to put there, and keep in mind this doesn't extend past the property line as it is now, this is all contained within the property line. We'd like to put a carriage house here. Carriage house it's very similar to the primary home here, except it's located in the back. It's very similar in its makeup and some of its materials. Now this is a west elevation. It's kind of flat. I'll explain it. This is the roof right here, and this whole structure right here is so much closer to you, the viewer, than the rest of this. This is the house proper, and this is our addition. We're putting on a 3-story addition. And let me show you, and this is a 2-car garage down below and an entrance to our back, almost want to call it an atrium, with the space that's contained between the tall walls. This is the front, the front of the carriage house. So this would be your view, and it's a section, so there's some remnants of walls that have been cut, and we're looking at this. It is a section, we're looking at the carriage house, and this is a new structure. This one is, and I believe it can be new. The materials are explained in your handout, but essentially you've got a standing seam roof, wood siding, wood windows, and we do have a metal handrail, wood doors, and of course brick. Well, I guess I've just realized that without the computer, a lot of this is missing. I can show you some of this. Oops. This is would be a north elevation. Now this does show 2 boarded up windows. Those windows will be replaced in kind, wood and glass. And what you see right here, this is the top floor, this is the second floor, and the first floor is just completely behind the walls. So truly what you see is approximately a floor and a half. Anticipating the use of the computer, I would have showed you a lot more. I know you've seen some of it, but some in the audience may not have. What we've got, this is the house proper, gable roof. This is a 3-story addition roof. This is a second floor deck, and you noticed you couldn't even see it from outside the walls. This is call it a skywalk. It extends all the way down here and comes to that set of stairs that you saw in the front of the carriage house. Now these steel beams that are in here, those are existing right now. The only thing we've done is taken off the roof, and there's steel beams that span this. Imagine it's for lateral support and a little bit to hold up the roof maybe. But this covers a walk directly below it that looks just like this and takes you right out. This is a patio outside the first floor, and we're still kind of working on this, but it's just going to be an outdoor patio / atrium space. I won't go through these materials unless you'd like me to, but we're doing our best, especially the front door. You can look through it. The front door we're trying to match in an historic fashion, and I believe we can do that with a door across the street, or at least mimic it in something that we have built or something that we can buy. I can run through some materials. We've got wood siding, we've got metal roof, we've got wood windows, glass. We've got the divided lights on each side. They're not true divided lights, but we have the buttons on each side of the glass. And that's included in the carriage house as well. We do have a steel railing that's in there, painted, and of course brick. I believe that's it. And I wished I could have taken you through the show. It's a roller coaster ride and it's a lot of fun, but thought better of it when we tried to plug it. But beyond that, I guess I'll hear from anyone else and answer questions shortly.
All right, is there anyone who received notice of the hearing that would like to comment? step up.
I'm Greg Smith, as you know, and I own Mitchell Hardware, one of the neighbors, and I guess we would be considered a contributing structure on that block. I've had the store for 29 years and very proudly have owned that building and the business, and very much so am pleased, more than you could possibly imagine, that someone, a New Bernian family, is going to purchase a structure that warrants care and restoration is going to do so. The building I'm in was started in 1911, finished in 1912. The building across the street that's underway right now, the old City Hall, is 1812, 1811, 1812, this being 1830. The fact that the Walkers have restored the front as it was in 1830 is significant. I think all of you should know that the back of this building that he's talking about removing, the very back of that where the little patio is, and there's a room next to it, is a boiler room. It was the boiler. It is a huge monstrosity, and there's an oil tank outside of it. And the rest of that, up to the front of that, is an empty warehouse. At one time, the dry cleaners that operated from the 1970s when it was changed, the front of that operated with 30 to 50 employees in a warehouse. That's what they suggest that should be removed, and it should be. We very much so are pleased and excited about the prospect of having this building totally restored. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who received notice who would like to comment? All right, is there anyone else who would like to comment on this?
My name is Paul Johnson. I'm a New Bern resident. I own the building next to it, 219, 221 Craven. And I'm here tonight. We are very excited. We've seen all of the drawings, walked with Dr. Polo. Our building is next door. And you all know we share a private alley together next to each other. One of the drawings will show you that his entrance to his downtown business, not residential, opens on that private alley. We give full blessing to everything that he has done. We look forward to being in front of you later on, telling you what we're going to do with our building upstairs. But this is just important that new growth is coming downtown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? All right, then we'll move on from the public comment period. Brad, would you like to provide staff findings and recommendations?
Sure. Staff submits the following historic district guidelines as appropriate to this application. Exterior changes to historic buildings, windows and doors, page 30. Exterior entrances and porches, page 36, guidelines 4 and 10. Brick masonry material, page 39, guidelines 1, 2, 5, 6, 9, 13, 14, and 16. Accessibility and life safety, page 46, guidelines 1, 2, and 4. New construction and additions to historic buildings, pages 73 through 74, guidelines 1 through 5, 8 through 10, 12, 14, and 15. Site and setting, outbuildings and accessory structures, page 84, guideline 5. Based on the information contained in the application and the statements of reason are: 1, the proposed restoration to the front facade is in keeping with the historical record of the building. 2, the relocation of existing windows to facilitate the restoration helps preserve the character of the building. 3, the proposed outbuilding is clearly subservient in scale and placement to the primary structure. 4, the materials and design proposed are not incongruous with guidelines. Staff suggests the Commission approve the application for major exterior alterations at this time, citing the aforementioned guidelines.
Great. Thank you. Jerry, any final comments?
No, I don't think so. I appreciate the comments from everybody, and I think you've seen it enough times.
All right, thank you. Okay, commissioners, questions and comments?
Well, I started to just commend the applicant for really doing a good job at finding the guidelines that do apply. And I would suggest we add one which fits in with this. On page 28, number 10, the guideline regarding new door openings not being in the primary area. This one's in the secondary area, just indicating it complies. So it's page 28, number 10, windows and doors. And I'll add my praise to the individuals that made the comments. It's just great to see this in the downtown.
All right, any other questions or comments? One thing that we should probably do, which we have done for almost all large additions and infill projects, is to go through our worksheet, which I'm trying to find. I had it just a minute ago.
Take it out?
Wanna take it out?
Thought you did, but
Is that what you're looking for?
that's what.
Yes.
May I?
You may.
Brad, can you? Okay. If you've got a copy, then if you could display that. This is the worksheet that we have been using just to make sure that we have some kind of structured discussion on the different attributes of a project. The additions column, the green boxes there represent the attributes that we should focus on the different topics. So I'll just as we've done in the past, I'll read through these. Please feel free to ask questions or make comments as we go through these. So under site and setting, the development pattern, any comments or questions on that? We really don't have, moving on, we really don't have anything as far as placement of primary structures. There is an accessory structure, which would be the carriage house / garage in the back. Any comments or questions on that?
That would seem to be appropriately located in a tertiary area. I don't know if well, let me put it this way. Where it is located, I consider it to be a tertiary area.
All right. Anything else on accessory structures? Fences and garden walls. Now we have a bit of a different situation here in the sense that, Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, but the warehouse part, you're going to take the roof off and leave the walls up. So in effect, the building walls become the garden walls, so to speak.
That's correct.
Okay. So any questions on the adaptive reuse of that? Any comments? Placement of utilities, is there any, or are there any issues with that? Landscaping, there really wasn't any landscaping involved in this. Any questions or comments? Nothing, there's nothing in the application related to parking, public and open spaces. Any questions or comments on that? Signage. Since this isn't on the waterfront modifications really don't apply.
I do have one quick question regarding the site plan. Jerry, if you would, can you run through the materials of what's happening between the carriage house and the historic building.
All right, we'll start at the historic building right here. And since what you see in here is a two-story, some of it is underneath. So I'll show you what's on top, and then I'll show you what's underneath it. You can exit, no, this white part here is the upper space that's connected to the third floor.
Yeah, that's the addition, right?
That's the addition, and that goes all the way down. On the second floor of the addition, you can step out onto this. What we're showing is wood. We may revamp that to a concrete, because that's what we're showing here. But we thought a wooden deck initially. You can come out here, make your way down this deck. The heights of this steel, everything just worked. It was kind of nice. But you can make your way down, or you can walk from here and take 2 steps down, be a little bit lower. It's glassed in back there, your dining, and overlook the patio, or you can make your way down this set of steps right here to this wooden patio down below. Now, if you're still up here, you've come out here, you've come down this walk, you take about 3 steps down to a landing, which is on the same level as this concrete. By the way, this all may turn into concrete, but you're on a porch here for the carriage house, or you can continue down to the concrete below. Now, if you're down in the first floor, you exit approximately right here, right out the back of the building. It was all pure brick there, and that's some of the brick we're reusing. You exit here underneath this skywalk, and you can see some of the remnants of the concrete below, some steps down there, but you can walk all the way down here, take 3 steps down, and you can walk all the way through here and exit. If you come over here and take 2 steps down, you're onto we're showing a wooden patio. And this has a little kind of an outdoor fireplace. It's an outdoor seating. This is all open. At this point, we're showing, you take 1 step down here, and we're showing this as the existing concrete that it is. But that may very well change. We haven't quite got there. And if it's something I need to bring back, I think it's a little ways down the road anyway. But what these are right here are nothing but raised planters. And inside those raised planters, we just have some small vegetation. There is 1 garage door here that allows you to bring furniture in or bring your car in. Metal roof that's in your packet, standing seam. We have railing here, of course, where the stairs are, railing all the way back to here and around this second floor deck, railing down those stairs. Obviously, windows in the side, and they're detailed in the packet. The tops of these walls at this point, you've seen they have those terracotta sort of stack tile. And honestly, I don't think anything will abruptly change or change at all that what you see from the outside. It's that deep maroon paint. And I'm speaking on behalf of myself now. I'm probably different from the owners, but what goes on back there, most people don't even know there's an open space there. And as long as that's kept maroon or paintable anyway, if they choose to paint it different, they'll come before Brad and seek an answer on that. But it's all pretty much, what you see out there is pretty much the way it's going to be.
Thank you.
Certainly. You want me to leave that out for a minute, or?
Sure.
Chairman, could I go back to signage?
Sure.
It says there's going to be a business on the side going into those doors. Is there some kind of signage that's going to be about that business? You haven't mentioned anything.
Probably, just haven't got there. That would be, it's nothing that I've included in this design. If in fact it is a business, which is the plan, and it needs to say, Jerry's Fabrics, certainly they'll put forth and apply for a permit.
They would have to apply for a sign permit, and that has review through the HPC administrator, or if it, depending on the scale, the board full, so.
You know, we held off. It could be a shoe, and maybe they want a shoe to hang out there, that shape or something, so we just held off. I don't know what's gonna be in there.
Okay.
Jerry, I have another question as well. With all the hardscape inside the walls, how are you dealing with storm drainage?
Well, it's a great question, and because you have to deal with that. There are some soil conditions here, been a cleaners, but we can cut it and we can get down to the soil. So we're in kind of early stages of working with civil engineer on how we're going to drain this. Great question. That's usually overlooked.
Anything else under site and setting? All right, moving on to design attributes. Scale, mass, and proportion, form and rhythm, texture, and details.
Well, these items specifically relate to, the first item is for addition, so, these comments are about the addition itself, and as far as texture and details, what I can see of it is brick skin and a lot of glazing, which is, perfectly appropriate, found in the district materials used at the time the original building was constructed. And as shown, plenty of precedent for that type of an addition. Scale and proportion, form and rhythm. As far as scale and proportion, the overall scale of it is appropriate. Proportions of the glazing that we can see on that rear elevation are congruous with the fenestration that's already on the building, so I think it's all very positive.
Anyone else? Okay, can we move on to the next set? Design components, foundations, walls, trim, and ornamentation, windows, doors, and openings, entrances, roofs, decks, accessibility, and life safety.
Just to confirm, in regard to windows, we are, in some cases on the historic building, relocating and reusing historic fabric. Are we a couple short? Do we have?
We're too short. You
Okay.
have a great memory. Putting on a 3-story addition on the back takes up 2 windows on each floor of the first and second floor. I'm sorry, the second and third floor. And those will be reused. 2 will go over to the side near the entrance off of the shared space in between the buildings. The other 2 will go onto the north elevation, replacing those. And we'll have 2 new ones in the front. Now, that may not be the exact order we put those in, but you got the idea. We may reuse them on the front. That really makes more sense.
What kind of construction are you anticipating for the 2 new ones that will have to be
Well,
created from scratch, so to speak?
I believe
It's not the Pella window in here, is it?
it's not what?
Is it the Pella window in the?
It is, if we can
Okay.
get the wood, that type. That's what we're looking at, if we can find one exactly in time. Now, that Pella will meet all the requirements, I believe. But after finding a door today that I believe may work here, we may do a little more extensive search.
And what I want to make sure, and I'm pretty sure this is not the case, but the cut sheet you've got is for both wood and aluminum clad windows, and there wouldn't be an aluminum clad window on the historic building.
We're gonna peel all the aluminum off. No. We're gonna purchase wood windows.
so I had that correct.
You did, that's
Okay.
correct. They will be
So-
wood.
And then on the carriage house,
Now, the carriage house, I believe, will use wood windows. We'll probably use, or we will use, the thermopane insulated glass, and it'll have the divided lights, non-divided lights, but with the buttons located on both sides. But it'll be a little more modern window, and when I say that, I mean more energy efficient.
So the two new wood windows go where in the proposal?
We'll take two windows from the rear, put on the front. We'll take two more windows from the rear, we have four, and we'll put on the side, I believe. I know I'm saying something a little different now, but it leaves us with two windows, so it'll either be on one side or the other. It won't be on the front. Primary elevation will have a reinstalled existing window.
And are those double hung currently?
There.
Okay. The cut sheet that's in here shows some awning and fixed units. You planning to use a double hung to match?
Yeah, I believe we should. That may be in here. I believe the windows that we put, once we put all four windows in, the remaining two should be windows of the like kind, double hung window, wood, clear glass. In the same style, I believe, what is that, a 6/6 is what they are.
Jerry, you've submitted a couple of examples of doors, a Victorian panel door and another door. Could you tell us where you plan to use those?
Front door,
Front door.
the very front door off of Craven. Now, we're showing those, but like I was saying, I was backing up and I got over towards the Isaac Taylor house, and the woman came out and we got to talking, and she put a new front door on hers, not new. She went through HPC and put an appropriate door, but she has her old door that was original to that house. And she sounded like it was available. So if it's appropriate, and I think it is, it's kind of a 6-panel, something similar to what we're looking at.
Well, actually, I think the original door is back on the house. They had replaced the original door on there with a door that did not match
Oh, so that's the one in the
exactly
basement?
the architectural design of that of the entryway. So they took that door off. That's probably the door that we're
Okay.
talking about. But we
Well-
have no evidence of what
That's right.
the original door on this structure looked like. So
You know, I almost think it should be either a 6-panel, it's a tall door, it'll be 7 foot plus, or kind of what we're showing, which I guess you would call a 5-panel, so to speak, but something along those lines. I would prefer it, my choice would be to find an historic door to place in there.
So on this building, unlike the Isaac Taylor house, it doesn't have paneling on the entryway that you would
Well-
be lining up with.
You know, I haven't found any indication of that other than what you can see here, and it's awfully hard to see. It's really hard to tell. It's over here. It does, to me, look like you walk out that door and that first riser is awfully close. So I've got to think it probably does go in, but I don't have any indication of that. And any other photograph I've looked at really shows nothing. So for me to recess that door, I could certainly do it, but I don't have any precedent, so to speak, from this particular house to do that. And back in the day, I think a lot of doors were like that anyway. You open the door and that first step was right there. There was no landing like we have today.
Right.
When you zoom into that photograph, there's a sort of a whitish vertical rectangle
Yeah.
to the right of it that, I mean, it shows almost the same value as the painted wood windows. So I would interpret that as probably a paneled side
Right.
now. What dimensions of the paneling, stops and all that stuff, no one knows.
And we looked at it and thought the same thing. We tried some other photographs. I've got about 2 or 3 of this building, but the ones I've got show, by the time, this is the only one that shows a door, put it that way. It's just really hard to read.
So the door, the front door that you're proposing is not recessed, is that correct?
I don't believe so.
Okay,
I mean, it's recessed about this much, because that's the thickness of
Okay.
the wall.
yeah.
14 inches, I believe.
Right.
It's kind of consistent
With
with
what?
what the photograph shows.
Yeah, here's that it's not a deep
At
recess.
this point, we're just showing a brick return. It's not a bad idea, and I'd certainly talk it over with the owners, and if it was something that we chose to do, we'd bring it before. Would that come out as a minor, or would it? Maybe not.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Darn.
And I'm less concerned about trying to absolutely replicate it exactly as it appears, because the building, the facade has certainly gone through some hard times, but just the fact that you guys are making the effort to try to get the facade back, get the windows back, and some semblance of, a door that's representative of probably what would have been on this building. I think that's a huge plus compared to what we have right now.
And there's some simple things we can do that I haven't even mentioned. This existing, it's no longer existing, but this basement vent, well, that's long gone. But when you put back a new facade, it's awfully easy to lay some brick in there and just kind of pay homage to it with a little bit of brick inlay. Now, I don't know if that's something that has to be discussed, or really something Richard had mentioned. It's not a bad idea, but I haven't listed it on any of the applications.
You sort of lost me there.
Well, see this area
The
right here?
vent, the bottom vent.
Okay.
That's an old basement.
Yeah.
This thing was poured solid. It's gone through a lot of changes. It's gone now. That's where the entrance is. So when you come back to recreate this, it would be awfully easy to brick and recess, just kind of a symbolic
A faux basement.
gesture. Yeah.
Okay,
But
thank you.
Larry doing that with a
Now, the door, the street level door around the corner, can you talk a little bit about that as far as the details are concerned?
Yeah, since I don't have the computer, I kind of, we've looked at several of them, and the precedences that I see of these, there's one in the, right across from Christ Church where the fountain is, where that pathway is. As you're entering the pathway, you go around the fountain, you go down about 3/4 of the way, and to the left, and there's an entrance to an architectural firm up there. And what that is recessed in about 4 feet. I believe it's glass on both sides and a glass door. There's that one. There's one in Bear Plaza where you go into the apartments, I guess. They must have a lobby. I've never been in there, but it's about the same thing. It's brick and it's recessed, and there's wood, typical storefront looking, but it's wood. And that's what we're proposing in here. And I can show you the, where is that?
So this would be roughly equivalent, I think, to the door that was added to the small one-story commercial building where Prohibition is putting in the restaurant. Remember, we allowed the door to be cut through there.
Was that the Confluence?
Yes,
That
what used to be Confluence.
Yeah.
I think the difference here is this is a deeper recess. I think that door is just put in plain and
Right.
wall.
Right.
Yeah.
Just- But like Jerry said, there is precedent for that. I walk through one every day.
Okay.
And they're nice little entrances, especially in these brick buildings. They're tucked, they're just real nice, real comfortable.
Jerry, what width would be the storefront?
8'4".
Okay.
So you plan to actually do something different than what you presented on this?
Well, unfortunately, yeah, and I know I hate to throw all the smoke and mirrors at you, but
Yeah.
certainly not. But
Right.
what's happening is this 8'4", and I believe it's 9'1". We'll move, this side right here will move straight over to here, straight down there, and then it'll be the same opening from here, 8'4". So it'll come over and do something like that and be right here. We just slid it over towards the front and kind of got into the recess of the previous window.
And will the door still be to either the left or the right, not centered, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And what you can't see from here is it does recess. It goes back 14 inches of brick, and I believe we have 28 inches of sidewall, wood glass. And
I think we have a recessed door on South Front Street that we just looked in the printer building. We put it, there's a recessed door there.
Yeah, well, again, I don't have issues with this. I just wanted to make sure it was clear what.
I apologize.
were-
I thought I was going to plug in here, and it was
Right.
another really fun thing to look at.
Just want to make sure that it's clear what, that we understand what you're proposing. Again, I think this is a good approach to adaptive reuse for that street level storefront entrance. Okay, moving on. Anything else under design components? Any other questions or comments?
Are we doing shutters or blinds and what material?
We are wood shutters. Although I've got to say Richard Parsons, I keep bringing his name up. For those that don't know
You've
Richard,
obviously had a conversation.
that conversation, he used to think that this building was the most fireproof building in town because he said originally it didn't have wood shutters. But every photo I've looked at, including this one in the 20s, shows wood shutters. So I think we're going to stick with that at this point.
And those shutters will come with
Hinges.
operable hardware regardless
Hinges
of
and the
whether they
locks.
operate or not.
Exactly.
Roofs. Are we doing anything to the roof on the historic residence?
Not as far as I know. We're not
Okay.
designing anything on it. May need some maintenance, but
Yeah, okay. So the batten type seam you're proposing is only intended for the carriage house?
correct. And the shed off of the 3-story, which comes in
Okay.
underneath the roof.
Probably ought to be a rolled seam where it
You think it's-
attaches to on the addition. If I were to hold true to my logic that I spout a lot.
Attached. I wouldn't mind it, honestly. It's a fairly
The-
small footprint.
Yeah, and the spacing of the seams was fine,
Sure.
within what the guidelines asks. And that's sure the height of them.
I think ours were 12 inches.
That is correct. Well, I can't read what the height is, but it's a low profile. Let's see.
All right,
It was the low height.
all right, anything else under design components? Any other questions or comments? Moving on to materials, masonry, wood, metals, contemporary materials.
Could we just back up for
Sure.
just a moment? Under design components decks, I believe when Jerry presented the first deck, there was a question whether it might actually be concrete, the first deck that you,
We're contemplating concrete versus wood deck.
okay. So, yes,
We've got some steel there that helps us. We haven't worked out any details yet on how to hold that concrete up there. It always requires some support. That's why we started out with wood, and we may end up back there. Is concrete, I believe, is an acceptable material.
right. Probably wouldn't affect our decision because it'd be interior or new, I don't.
Well, Mike, you know, we had a bit of a discussion about when you take the roof off of the warehouse part, you know, what do you have?
Is that exterior or interior?
Yeah, my opinion is that this is, you know, we're really not talking about what I would consider a traditional backyard in the sense that this is, you know, adaptive reuse of warehouse space. You're just basically taking the roof off and you still have your 16, 18-foot walls, so to speak. And to me, it's different from a regular backyard or patio or whatever you want to call it, just because it's absolutely, completely self-contained. I can't think of another situation of any historic property that has something like this in Newbern.
I agree, yeah.
Well, I would say though that its degree of containment or, you know, its status as easily versus not easily seen is completely separate from appropriate. And appropriate is what we evaluate.
And do you have any issues with the appropriateness of what's been proposed?
Well, actually, as I'm looking at this, my thought now for the area between the carriage house and the addition is that much of it has not yet been decided. And I wonder if that portion, once you're further along in your design, maybe that should come back. It's hard to evaluate, we've said this about other applications, it's hard to evaluate when you don't have specific details and the applicant themselves aren't even sure which way they're going. So as a matter of record on what we're voting on, when I hear we don't know yet, that this doesn't form a contract in terms of, you know, what's described as what we're approving.
Okay. Other commissioners, any comments or questions?
I guess my question would be, what guidelines apply to that area? Is it residential new construction? Is it additions to an historic building? It is beyond where there is an addition to the historic building, not necessarily attached other than as a deck. And it's not really part of the carriage house.
Well, I think you just have to look at each piece individually. There's a wooden deck that's proposed, but it might be concrete. If it's a wooden deck, then we know what to look at.
Well, I mean, if the applicant wants to come back when it's firmed up, but I don't think it would change how we view the rest of the project.
Well, you know, like I said, each aspect I think needs to be evaluated on its own. I presume that the old, you know, dry cleaning slab is not what you're gonna keep. That most of that's gonna be demolished, and if there's new paving out here, it's gonna be new paving.
There will be some new paving, but the existing slab is probably in better shape than you think. As far as in the back, you're talking? Between the carriage
within-
house?
Outside, within walls.
Certainly, I think that it's probably in good enough shape to reuse a fair amount of it, or, you know, like you say, that we haven't got there. We might put pavers on it.
Well, and those are decisions that, you know, if somebody were proposing to pave a portion of their rear yard, we'd look at it.
Well, I'm not gonna pave it. Pavers, like anybody would put in their backyard.
Well, I think we're talking about the same thing. Apply pavers, pave. The end result is a paved surface. And I don't mean asphalt.
Gotcha.
And maybe getting back to what I think I heard your question, Jim, and maybe this hopefully has come through in my line of questioning, I kind of see it as three parts. We've got a historic structure with an addition. We've got a contemporary outbuilding, and then we've got a yard in between.
And the yard's already paved.
Well, and there are a lot of unique circumstances with this, but regardless, I think, you know, the yard is not unlike every other yard in the district. You've got something up at the street, in most cases, a building or structure, and in this case, we've got a nice outbuilding that caps the rear of the property line, and you're left with a space in between that, you know, often serves as a support space for the residents, whether it has decks and patios and plantings or landscaping or what have you.
And it is existing. If we chose to leave it as existing concrete, this is just for debate only, then we would probably be able to just leave it as it is. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah,
We're
Thinking
not, we're not
towards
gonna
our-
leave it like it is. But so
well,
that's
I
the-
understand what you're saying. Thinking towards where we're trying to take the guidelines.
Sure.
We are working towards talking about development pattern, which was one of the things on our matrix, and you know, downtown where we've got a dense urban fabric, you know, nice lush landscape yards are hard to come by. There's a reason for that, and certainly we are within that development pattern, in my opinion, where frankly everything is usually an impervious surface when it comes down to it. And so for me, that's a fairly easy, I'm fairly comfortable with what you've proposed.
No, and I understand the concern as well.
In fact, I'm very comfortable with what you've proposed.
My question is, as far as we are concerned, what I'm hearing is that all of this is between the walls. Now, we have the ability to judge what's between the walls. Are we looking at on the outside of the walls? Do we have the authority to even judge what's going on in between the walls that can't be seen from the outside? Are we concerned about what's got to be done on the outside, what's seen on the outside?
Yeah,
Both.
that's a great question. And
Our job was to take care of, you know,
well,
the outside.
and the way I kind of reconcile it is, if it shows up in the site plan, it's part of our purview.
All
You know.
new construction, all additions, all improvements are subject to COA approval, because it isn't how many people per day experience what's proposed. It's whether what's proposed is appropriate for the application. Once the roof comes off, that's outdoor space. Now, it's got garden walls that are
Really tall
much higher
ones,
than
yeah.
we would allow if somebody proposed to build them, but they're there. And that's fine for them to be there. But the space in between is now essentially the backyard. And if somebody came to us with a deck, a trellis, an arbor, a gazebo, a pool, whatever, for their backyard, we'd look at it. And lots of those things aren't easily visible from the street, but we know that's not the point. It's whether or not it's appropriate.
But I would also argue that this whole thing of, you've got a warehouse, you've taken the roof off of it, and now it's a garden, that doesn't exactly fit with anything in the guidelines. So I get your point, but I also think this is one of these things that's a bit of an outlier.
Well, we don't have to have a chapter
Yeah.
named warehouses converted to gardens to be able to evaluate every piece of the proposal. And, you know, if you look at it, there's a large portion. Okay, first you've got the little rectangle for the addition. Then you've got the exterior porches off of that. You've got the bridge, but there's stuff on the ground underneath the bridge. There's the big half circle, there's the quarter circle, there's the wooden deck, there's the area that the stair takes up. How much of that existing slab will really show underneath all these other things that are proposed? So the proposal itself already tells us it's no longer a, shop floor. It's somebody's backyard. It's designed as such, that's what it is.
But it was designed over an existing slab that was impermeable to begin with. We didn't put the slab there.
No, but you're proposing a number of other things that are within our purview to review.
But is there anything on this drawing that's inappropriate?
Well, what I'm telling you is, I'm not sure, because Jerry is telling us he's not finished with the
Well,
design.
I'm saying this is the drawing, if this is the drawing. Decks, raised planter, and a walkway, right?
Made of wood, concrete,
Steps, yeah, traditional.
steel rails. They're all materials permissible within our guidelines.
Mhm.
Well, and that's certainly a strategy, is to evaluate what's before us, ask any questions if something's unclear, so it's in the record, and, make that part of the application. But if it ends up, if you change the design at some point, that means you probably will have to come back.
As I've mentioned several times, if we were doing something different, we'd bring it back.
Well, and I'd probably opened up this can of worms by asking, or maybe you did when you said you maybe concrete, but regardless, I'm certainly leaning towards moving forward based on what you've proposed, and if there are changes, that you'd come back.
Sure. No, that's sort of the way it is for anybody standing here, isn't it?
Right,
Right?
absolutely.
I'm more concerned about this whole notion of, well, nobody can really see it, so it doesn't matter. That's not a precedent I want to set. What
Right.
matters is the things we do to historic buildings, are they appropriate?
All right, so to try to find a landing spot for this and take a step forward, can we all agree that what Jerry has provided and described based on the evidence we have in front of us, no one has any issues with this? Is that a fair statement?
I think so.
Okay. Then let's see if we can move forward with this. Anything else under materials? Masonry, wood, metals, paint, contemporary materials. Any questions on the siding or anything in the extra handout we received? Okay, going once, going twice. Then we have gone through the worksheet. Any other final final questions or comments on the application? And just to make sure that we've covered all of our bases, let's see, Greg, I looked at at your review of this from a zoning standpoint. I didn't see where you had noted any issues on the project. Okay. All right, so the points that I have made here, and you guys help me with this, as far as things that we might want to note or cover as part of the application. Jerry pointed out a modification to the drawing of the side door. He explained how it's been moved forward based on what's in the plan. Let's see. Tripp, you had the question about the double hung. I think it was you. Double hung wood windows, or was it?
It was
Was it
David.
And then you had the question about a rolled seam roof for the roof on the addition.
Which I think we worked out.
Okay. So it's clear in the application for these points what we're getting. Yes?
Well, unless these are in the record, these all need to be
Right.
conditions, I would
Right.
guess.
Which is exactly where I'm headed.
I thought you were.
Okay, so any other questions or comments on the application? Is anyone ready to make a motion for or against? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we find the application for a certificate of appropriateness for 223 Craven Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance, sections 15411 to 15429, and New Bern's Historic District guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. The guidelines, exterior changes to historic buildings. I'm going to add roofs, number 19, page 19, number 6, which deals with metal roofs. I'm going to add windows and doors. Excuse me, I'm going to guideline windows and doors, page 30, A, C, D, E, and F. Also windows and doors, page 28. Guidelines 4 and 6 regarding the replacement windows, and guideline 10 regarding the placement of the new opening in a non-primary area of visual concern. Exterior entrances as porches, page 36, guidelines 4 and 10. Brick masonry material, page 39, guidelines 1, 2, 5, 6, 9, 13, 14, and 16. Accessibility and life safety, page 46, guidelines 1, 2, and 4. New construction and additions for the carriage house, additions to historic buildings, pages 73, 74, guidelines 1 through 5, 8 through 10, 12, 14, and 15. And site and setting, the outbuilding and accessory structure, page 84, guideline 5. Findings of fact, the proposed restoration to the front facade is in keeping with the historical record of the building. The relocation of existing windows to facilitate the restoration helps to preserve the character of the building. Number 3, the proposed outbuilding is clearly subservient in scale and placement to the primary structure. And 4, the materials and design proposed are not incongruous with guidelines.
Second.
All right. Jim, do you want to add conditions, or does anyone want to propose friendly amendments as conditions to deal with the drawing of the side door, the double hung wood windows, and the rolled seam roof for the addition?
condition or just a recognition of
Either way.
a recognition of a change in the design, a slight change in the design to move the side entrance approximately 6 to 8 feet to the right to align with an existing prior window opening. The replacement windows will match the guidelines I suggested regarding compatibility with style, detail, et cetera, to existing windows on the building. And the roof on the addition to the primary structure will be a standing seam. Is that it?
No, those are the points that I had. Does anyone else have anything that you'd like to
Clarify that
recommend?
to
As
a
a-
rolled seam.
You probably ought to call it a rolled
Rolled
seam.
seam,
It's a-
okay, rolled seam. I accept the amendment.
Sorry. Okay, Brad, have you been able to capture all of that? This is a somewhat complex.
Sorry, what's that?
Have you been able to capture all of that?
The rolled seam, the side door
Yeah,
moving,
okay.
the double hung wood windows.
All right. All right, so since this is a somewhat complex and involved motion, does everyone understand what's in the motion? Any questions on what's in the motion? Everyone's cool with it? All right, so in that case, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, so COA application is approved. I'll call for a motion to issue a COA.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, COA is issued. All right, thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Dr. Polo, for taking on this project. This is a significant structure in New Bern, and thank you for your interest and your commitment to bring this structure back to life.
I can't think of anything else to do to my house. Other than gotta paint it. That's a significant move, paint it. We'll paint it like one side at a time. It's a big job. Well, after that last storm, I had to have the bathing to work on.
Okay,
Big thing.
Brad, if you're ready for the
Lordy.
next application.
Certainly. Next application is 210 Craven Street, which includes a conversion of a door in the tertiary area of visual concern to a double door. And Gary Stilley is here to represent the project.
Good evening, I'm Gary Stilley. I'm here representing Tony Salem, owner of Powell Properties, who owns the property at 210 Craven Street. We're proposing to convert a single exterior door opening to a double door opening. This is in the tertiary area of the building. You have a proposed plan. Actually, that is the existing plan, and do we have some pictures of it now?
Yes.
You had asked previously for some pictures. We have those now, and also have the door information.
While we're getting organized, Tony Salem is our accountant. So we just want to acknowledge, David and I are an architectural firm. Tony's our accountant. I do not believe we have a conflict of interest, but wanted to share that, just so you all were aware.
Please try not to delete the files in the folder here. On Dropbox. Just scroll through. Make sure.
Okay. Okay, good, good. Okay, this is the current configuration. As you can see, there's a single door. You have two side lights, or a side light on each side with a wood panel at the bottom of those side lights, and then a transom across the top. Not doing anything to the transom area of the back of the building. Just want to take the single exterior door, remove it, reduce the sides or the size of the two side light areas, and install a double door opening to allow for larger objects to be moved in and out of the building. Brad, I'm computer illiterate. How do I scroll this? I don't have a mouse with me. I just want to scroll up to the door. Okay, there's the door that we propose using. Same style as the existing. It's a fur door to be painted to be the same color as the existing.
Okay, anything else?
No?
All right. Well, we have no one left to comment on this, so I think we can move directly to staff findings and recommendations.
Okay.
Staff submits the following historic district guidelines as appropriate to this application. Exterior alterations to historic buildings, windows and doors, pages 26 through 30, guidelines 5 and 10. Statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the proposed door replacement is in the tertiary ABC. 2, the proposed door replacement is not for the sole purpose of thermal improvement. 3, the materials and design proposed are not incongruous with guidelines. Staff suggests the Commission approve the application for major exterior alterations at this time, citing the aforementioned guidelines.
All right, thank you. Any final comments?
No, sir.
All right.
Fair. No
Commissioners?
objections.
Any questions or comments?
I think the staff recommendation covers.
And I, in looking at this seems fairly simple and straightforward. You're replacing wood with wood that's already there.
Correct.
Just putting in double doors, not cutting the entrance any bigger, so.
No.
Are there any changes from what was presented at design review?
No, sir. No.
Will this affect anybody's tax returns?
I'll see what I can do.
All right, so if there are no questions or comments, would anyone care to make a motion to approve or deny?
Well, in the interest of speed, I'll do it. I move that we find the application for a certificate of appropriateness for 210 Craven Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance, Sections 15411 to 15429, and New Bern's Historic District Guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact: exterior alterations to historic buildings, windows and doors, pages 26 through 30, guidelines 5 and 10, and findings of fact: the proposed door replacement is in the tertiary ABC. The proposed door replacement is not for the sole purpose of thermal improvement. And number 3, the materials and design proposed are not incongruous with guidelines.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Call for motion to issue a COA.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. COA is issued. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it, folks.
And Brad, I believe that concludes the hearings for tonight. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Well, we have no one here to make public comment. Any administrative updates?
No
you wanna
minor
provide?
COAs this month.
Okay. All right, then a couple things that I have, the draft of the historic guidelines are out there on the website. The PDF file can be downloaded. We are waiting for our new planner who will serve as HPC administrator when they take the position. Then that individual will help us get some of the public hearings lined up. Other than that, just want to make everyone aware that the guidelines are out there on the HPC website to be downloaded. Any comments that you have should go to Brad and Development Services. Another announcement, Jerry, this is your last regular meeting. You've been on the HPC for 3 years, I believe.
That's correct.
Yes, I think I can speak for the other commissioners as saying that, your knowledge, your input as an architect, and obviously, your presentation tonight, you have a real passion for helping protect these historic properties. We really appreciate your input and your time and commitment to helping us.
I appreciate the comments, and it's, honestly, I think I'm a better architect than I am a commissioner, but I've learned an awful lot sitting on this commission. It will do me well, no doubt. So thank you all.
And of course, if your schedule in the future allows it, certainly contact Development Services if you would like to join the HPC again.
I am moving around a bit. I think I might try something, but it remains to be seen.
Okay. All right, anything else that anyone would like to bring up tonight? Otherwise, we haven't quite set a record, but we're certainly we certainly haven't drawn this out. So in that case, meeting adjourned.